This is the Four-Man Rush. Hello, Panther fans, and welcome to another podcast of the Four-Man Rush. I'm your host, Timmy Vio, here with three of the four gentlemen. We got Kevin, Will, and Larry, and it's postseason, quote-unquote, or we should say higher coaching season, because we now have a head coach. We went to the good old college ranks. If you've been living on a rock and you're a Panther fan, you haven't heard yet. Coach Rhule from the old Baylor Bears down in good old Texas has been hired by good old Dave Tepper. And the guys are going to talk about him at length, his connections, style, statistics, all the good stuff, because we get down like that. Of course, you already know that. That's why you're listening. All right, so Kev, we'll start with you, and then we'll hop over to Larry, and we'll hop over to Will, and we'll talk about Coach and how he can affect this roster, and how the roster hopefully can reflect off of his coaching style, and we'll go from there. Cool. All right, Kev, drop knowledge on us, man. What's up with Coach Rhule?
Well, with Coach Rhule, what we're getting here is, we can say now, the former head coach of the Baylor Bears. For those of us who are not familiar, Baylor is in Texas, in Waco, Texas, just south of Dallas. We're talking about a program that was, a few years ago, decimated by sexual assault, sexual harassment incidents that was going on. Nearly got the NCAA death penalty. And for anyone that's aspiring to move up the coaching ranks, that would have been a place to avoid. But Matt Rhule, who was at Temple at the time, decided to turn down better offers and to take upon this challenge. So right there in itself, we get a man that's not afraid of daunting tasks and to overcome and to reestablish a culture and a winning program. Well, when you look at the 2019 Carolina Panthers, that is definitely a rebuilding project like no other. Yeah, so, we're getting a coach here that is, I think he's like 43 years old, so relatively young in, NFL standards. I guess say almost middle age, but, 43. He moves around. He took Baylor from his first season in 2017, 1-11, to 2 years later, which was this past 2019 season, to 11-3. They played in the Sugar Bowl against Georgia. They lost, but they took Oklahoma down to the wire both times they played. They lost as well, those two games to Oklahoma. And Georgia, though, their only losses this year during the season. But Matt Rhule has a pedigree that's been known for someone that loves to be innovative, loves to coach, loves to develop his guys. And as we, did our research and information on him, because we all was kind of caught off guard, just a little bit of background information about him. He walked on in 1994 at Penn State as a linebacker. And for Carolina Panther fans, from day one, as some of y'all like to say, quarterback Kerry Collins was on that 1994 squad that went 12-0, went undefeated. But if I'm mistaken, I don't think they got a piece of the national championship. If I'm not mistaken that year. Tim, you can verify that for me if you like. But yeah, he got to start there. So you're talking about somebody that was at linebacker per se, and he just basically, just worked his way up. He was a guy that didn't mind coaching any position, anywhere that he went. After he graduated, he was a linebackers coach in 1998 at Albright University. He went to University of Buffalo, was defensive line coach from 99 to 2000. He went out to UCLA in 2001 as a defensive line coach. Hey, local fact. He came here to Western Carolina in 2002 and was special teams and linebacker coach.
Wow.
And and he stayed at Western Carolina for a little while. He moved up, became associate head coach, and and also added running game coordinator along with special teams and linebackers coach. So, yeah, man, I mean, he's just a guy that he prided himself on the love of football to, no matter what position was needed, he put himself in a position to not only learn the nuances of the position group, but to make sure that the players in his group were successful as well. So we're just talking about a guy that just loves challenges and loves to overcome and leave things in a better position than what they left. And I think that the 2019 Carolina Panthers is definitely the type of challenge that suits what his resume can possibly be. Now, me, myself, personally, I've already said for the next 2 seasons, I got minimum expectation of the Carolina Panthers. This move is not something that's going to get us to the playoffs or, make us title contenders. So, let's keep things realistic. But what I think that this is just the first checkoff of the most important offseason in Carolina Panthers history. So we finally got a new face of the franchise from a coaching perspective. He's the 5th coach that the Panthers ever had. And myself personally, he was like my coach 1B pick as far as the Panthers go. The other one was Eric Bieniemy. He was my 1A. But, it's time to rule, baby. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he assembles this coaching staff and how the other front office moves coordinate with what he has planned for the Panthers. And I'm just excited to see what's going to happen.
Awesome. Larry.
So I'll start off by letting Panther Nation know that I wasn't a big fan of pretty much any of the coaching candidates. I looked at the landscape before we fired Ron. I just didn't see that there was going to be, an immediate upgrade. But I do try to find optimism out of everything, especially with this hire right here. I think it's a good marriage, a really good marriage. If you look at the interview that Tepper just had, he talked about how the guy dresses the same as him. He talked about how they have the same vision. Tepper said he wants somebody to build this organization right for the next 30 or 40 years. So definitely a franchise builder, definitely a program builder that he got. If you look at his background as a player in his early coaching career, he was a linebacker and a linebacker's coach. He was a linebacker at the most prestigious university to be a linebacker at. So I think he'll fit right in with Luke Kuechly, our franchise linebacker. So I also like the fact that he's well-rounded. He coached a whole bunch of different positions. So it's not like he has a specialty and he'll be weak in other areas. He knows a little bit of everything. And I also like the fact that he has constructive, peep that word, constructive criticism, meaning that he's not afraid to go ahead and let a guy know, listen, you messed up. This is how you got to fix it. He's willing to challenge not just his players, but he's going to challenge his staff as well. And I think that's something that we've been missing. We didn't have anybody to demand accountability in the last few years, and I think that's why we've been mediocre. So I know that, we're going to get the best effort from him and pretty much anybody around him. So all it's really going to come down to is guys buying into it. We don't have a good track record in the NFL of college coaches actually being successful in the NFL. We just got to hope that we're the anomaly. We got to hope that we're the rare occasion where we get a guy that can do this thing right, because I know we're tired of mediocrity. We want to be a contender for the next few years and long years to come. So I'll find optimism out of it. I'm just going to be patient because there's really nothing else we can do but be patient with this guy.
Yeah, man. I'm loving it. You guys are making me feel better about this. Will, what's up?
Yeah, I think just to get into the coaching search in general, I think my 2 favorite candidates were Eric Bieniemy out of Kansas City and Matt Rhule. I kind of assumed Matt Rhule was going to take the Giants job. He's from New York. He's worked for the Giants before. He's worked for Dave Gettleman before. And he had the Giants interview the day after he had the interview with Tepper and Hurney. So I just kind of assumed he was going to use the Panthers for leverage and, to get a better offer from the Giants. But the way it turned out, he did that. He tried to use the Panthers contract to say, ask the Giants, can you match this? And Dave Gettleman said, no, we got our guy, Joe Judge. So Rhule said, okay, and it worked out for both sides. Tepper got his man, and Rhule's with the Panthers now. I think when people look at head coaching candidates, they they're kind of biased towards coordinators based on the success of their offenses. And I think a head coach is a CEO. It's not necessarily a play caller. You can hire good coordinators to work for you to call plays and manage the offense and the defense. The head coach needs to build a culture in the organization, be a leader of men, develop players, teach technique, hire the right people around him to help, establish that culture. I think Matt Rhule does all of those things. So I think we got that culture builder now. We're going to let him come in. He likes that. He likes the fact that we are able to start with a clean slate, have a decent amount of cap space, a lot of good young pieces to build around. He's going to try to build a sustainable, successful culture here in Carolina. I think one thing that David Tepper really liked about him was his sports science program. He really believes in, player nutrition, training, different training regimens, and all of these different things to help get the max performance out of his athletes. I think that's the positive. And I think player development is going to be key with him. His style is at Baylor, he didn't get the 4- and 5-star recruits there. They all go to LSU, Oklahoma, UT, and those schools. But at Baylor, he got the 2-, 3-star guys. So they would focus on looking for, measurables, guys with good length, good height, that can jump high and run fast. They just said, come to our program and play football, and then find them positions. So a guy that played receiver in high school, they may find him a fitted cornerback and just develop his technique and turn him into a solid player. And just from that teaching and being able to develop players and establish a culture, help Baylor go from 1-11 to 11-3 within 3 years with basically the same core of players. So all these things are what you want to look for in a head coach. I know Matt Rhule checks all of the boxes. The biggest concern is the lack of pro experience, but, no pun intended, maybe he's the exception to the rule. I mean, you've seen guys make that successful transition like a Pete Carroll, Jimmy Johnson, Tom Coughlin did it. I just think it's a matter of being in the right situation, having the right support system, having the right players in place. And I think Tepper's going to give him everything he needs to succeed here in Carolina. So we just got to be patient, let Rhule get in, get established, make some big decisions on player contracts this offseason, and let's get the ball rolling.
Indeed. I like the fact that he's a linebacker coach. That makes me feel better. I don't know, there's something about linebacker and DB coaches, man. When they get that head coach position, they just, I don't know, they seem to have I don't know, man. They just have a better control over the situation. It seems like to me. I don't know. I could be wrong.
I agree with you, Tim, because one thing you got to do to be a successful linebacker, you got to be tough and you got to be nasty. Football is a physical game, so if you don't have those two factors, you're not going to be real successful. I think that's the reason why Ron was so successful, because he knows about being tough, he knows about being physical, and fundamentally sound. So I'm all for linebacker coaches just like you are.
Right on, man.
That's what he preaches. I mean, when he went to Temple, his motto was Temple tough. And he didn't run no gimmick college offense. He lined up 22 personnel, 12 personnel, ran that power offense, and drove guys off the ball. The way he ran his system was he would select the 9. He set the single-digit jerseys, he set them aside, and he allowed the players to vote on the 9 toughest players in the football program. So the guys that got voted the 9 toughest players got the single-digit jerseys.
Whoa.
So, in Temple, I know his fullback was one of the tough players, and if you watch him, they used that fullback, and they pounded the rock, and they gained respect. And I think he first came on my radar in 2015 when Temple upset Penn State. It was the first time they beat Penn State since 1941.
That's huge.
So just his ability to rebuild Temple from a 2-win team to a back-to-back 10-win seasons made him a hot commodity. And then he did what he accomplished at Baylor a couple years later. He brought that same, toughness mentality to Baylor, did the same thing with the single-digit jerseys, and we saw that. But what I respect about him the most is in Temple, what you'll notice about his offense is that it was just a power run pro-style offense. But when he went to the Big 12, you got to adjust because you're playing against different teams. And the guys you're recruiting are playing in these spread systems and RPO systems that, they're used to playing in. So he linked up with Chip Kelly, the offensive coach from Oregon. He didn't have much success in the NFL, but nobody will deny he's one of the more innovative offensive minds in college football
he was killing
over the past few years.
Yeah.
He linked up with a lot of local high school coaches throughout Texas, and he learned spread offenses and RPO systems. And the goal was to establish an offense that incorporates both his pro-style power run attack with the spread offense and RPO concepts. And he was able to do that successfully at Baylor. So I just think that shows a willingness to learn and adapt and adjust his offense due to changes in the game. And that's one thing you definitely want to see from a coach.
So, will he keep Norv or Scott or both Turner? What are your thoughts on that? Kev, you want to speak on that? What do you think?
I don't think he's going to keep either Scott or Norv. I saw a few days ago that Scott Turner was actually in Washington, D.C., interviewing with the Redskins for a position with them. So haven't got any updates on that since then. Seems like Rivera's pretty much bringing all his friends with him to D.C. Well, not all of them, because he still left Eric Washington and Marty Herney. But and I think we all know why now. But but yeah, I just think that with the schemes and the things that Rhule has done, he just wants his own guys. He's told him that Tepper told him that he has complete control over his staff. I think, Norv and Rivera have been together so long, so many. I think that's just a loyalty there. So for me personally, I don't see any reason why either of them would stay. Now, would I be bothered if they did? No, because I think Scott Turner's an up-and-coming NFL coach of mine that I think if he's given the opportunity, he could very well become a well-known coordinator and possibly even coach, several years down the line. So, but my indications is I don't think either one of them will be on the Rhule coaching staff. There's already rumors floating around about the new coordinators coming in. I believe the gentleman Snow, quarterback coach for the Detroit Lions, has been rumored to be someone that Matt Rhule is targeting. So, we'll see.
Yeah, actually, we were so caught up in the Matt Rhule news today. Scott did accept the Redskins job as offensive coordinator.
Okay, so he's going to be the coordinator. So what about that coordinator? I guess they was kind of excited about the Redskins had that other guy.
Yeah, he might join Josh McDaniels. When Josh McDaniels was assembling his staff, that was one of the guys he wanted to bring with him. So they might end up in Cleveland. I don't know what direction they go. But I would imagine Norv would go with Scott and be some kind of consultant with the Redskins at most.
They have a nice young
that's probably the role he'll
with.
take. But I think the offensive coordinator is going to be a guy named Sean Ryan. He's the quarterback coach for the Detroit Lions. He was the quarterback coach for the Houston Texans in 17 and 18. So he has experience working with Deshaun Watson. He was a wide receiver coach for the Giants, when Odell Beckham was a rookie there. So he was a big part in Odell Beckham developing as a rookie wide receiver. And he learned his system from Kevin Gilbride from the Giants. He was in the old run and shoot offenses with the Houston Oilers and Warren Moon back in the day. So he's kind of found off of that tree, learned from that guy. And he learned from Bill O'Brien on the Texans. So he's a well-rounded offensive coach. The Texans, Bill O'Brien said he's ready to be a play caller now. But that's something he enjoys doing. Similar to Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy. Those guys just enjoy calling plays, and they love the challenge of it, so they don't give their coordinators that responsibility. But he's an up-and-coming, bright play caller, so I'm excited to see what he has.
And I like to, just say that I'm happy to hear Scott Turner get an opportunity to be offense coordinator as a fan of his. And I just, I hope that he gets a chance to show what he can do. I think he's going to do well, having the opportunity to catch what's the quarterback of the Redskins? Haskins. To kind of get him, from scratch to groom and to roll. it'll definitely be interesting to see. So, I'm happy to hear Scott Turner is going to be get his chance to be offensive coordinator. That's something good to hear.
Man. And the defensive coordinator, what's his background?
Well, that's going to be that Phil Snow. I don't know if he's going to be defensive coordinator. The way it was worded in the article was defensive coach. So I don't know if Rhule's going to bring him on as a D coordinator, like a linebacker coach. But Phil Snow is a candidate. I think Larry want to talk about him.
Yeah. Larry, please. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll talk about him a little bit. So, have you been following the trend when it comes to getting these young, innovative offensive minds, head coaching jobs and stuff like that? They tend to try to bring in a groomed, older, more old school type of coordinator. And if you're looking for that, that's definitely somebody from Rhule's tree that fits that bill. Phil Snow, he's been coaching for over 40 years, and he's been with a variety of different position groups, mainly DBs. He also coached some linebackers, and he's been a coordinator for like a few different programs. Boise State in the 80s, UCLA in 2001 and 2, Arizona State in the late 90s, Eastern Michigan, Temple, and of course Baylor, because he's been with Rhule for the last few years. So I think that's just more of a chemistry thing, a cohesive thing, because he's been with Rhule, for the better part of the last 7 years. So he's definitely somebody that's knowledgeable. Like I said, 40-something different years, a variety of different programs that he's been a part of. I just think that's a good marriage for them two. That's just all about cohesion. If you do bring Snow in, I don't think there's anybody that can come in and teach him anything. I think he pretty much, at this point in his life, he's 64 years old. He's been around the game of football for so long. I just think that Rhule trusts him. So if he brings him in as a coordinator, that's more of a trust thing. That's somebody that you're familiar with. That might be the right way to start off. And because, Snow has been coaching in the college ranks, he knows how to develop young guys. So that should be somebody that Dante should be looking forward to working with. I know he's not the easiest player to work with, but we got a lot of young guys. Brian Burns, Haynes, Miller. Like, we have so many young draft picks on the defensive side of the ball that we're just waiting to be developed and grow into great players. So he's definitely a good name to have out there, because I think he's more than capable of showing those guys how to play the game of football.
Love it, man.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Tim.
No, I'm just saying, I really love that. Go ahead, Dan. You're good. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what I was saying was, while Larry was speaking, Google is our friend. I just decided to type in Phil Snow defensive scheme and came across a very well descriptive article that came up in the the Baylor Bears website. Is ourdailybears.com. Mm-hmm. And this article from 2017, just looking over, it says the new Baylor defense, just some highlights of it. It says that the base set for Phil Snow defense is going to be a 3-4 defense. So for those of us that are fans of the hybrid of the 3-4, it seems like that with the background between Snow and Rhule, they both use 30 fronts and 40 fronts. So I think that possibly could have also been one of the attractions for Rhule being the guy, because we've already invested, a high draft pick with Brian Burns and, other guys that fit the hybrid mold. I'll post this. Want to, check it out on all of our social media accounts. Seems like Snow is a good matchup, whatever is the things that the opponent likes to do. And so that's good, because we all know under Rivera, we're going to see pretty much that 4-2-5 nickel versus any set that has more than two receivers. And a lot of times, we had our linebackers trying to cover wide receivers in the slots. And, well, we've seen how that, has he seems to run a fair amount of man with some zone into it, but it seems to be more man. It's just, the line is breaking down how each detailed article of the breakdown of the scheme with Phil Snow. So like Larry said, whether he's just a defensive coach or a coordinator, he's someone that seems to have a grasp on matching up effectively against personnel. And again, something I shared when we was on IG Live, 2017, first year at Baylor, they went 1-11. They was giving up 36 points a game. But by 2 years later, in 2019, this past season, they cut that all the way down to 19. So, hey, if the Panthers defense can get that type of result, I would be ecstatic.
Yeah, I watched some Temple film earlier today. I was preparing for the podcast tonight. I was just amazed at the number of pro players he was producing on Temple. I mean, Matt Ioannidis, the Redskins defensive tackle, was on that front. Hassan Reddick, the Cardinals linebacker. Then you just had some offensive guys too as well. But he was just it's a tribute to how Phil Snow and Matt Rhule are just able to develop talent. They're taking the kids at these non-Power 5 schools and developing into NFL players. At Baylor, they had a solid defensive line, and I think they led the country in pressure rate using only 3-man fronts. They had an All-American defensive end. He might be coming out in the draft this year. I'm losing his name right now. But he had 12 and a half. I think he had like 13 and a half sacks. Trying to look him up right now. I'll get to it later. But yeah, they had a All-American defensive end in that 30 front. A guy who can play a 4-3 defensive end. He can also play inside defensive lineman in a 3-4 scheme. So it's a versatile lineman that we might want to look for on day 2 or day 3 of the draft. So, I mean, yeah.
I was curious. Were you talking about Bravion Roy, the DT that they have?
It's the defensive end. He's on the All-American team. I'm looking them up right now.
While you're looking for him, you might also want to talk about Bravion Roy. He's a big space eater. I think he's like 333 pounds, 6'1". He's also entered the draft coming out of Baylor. But me and Kev were looking at his numbers early. He had 12 tackles for a loss this year and 5.5 sacks. Yeah. So there's going to be a lot of talent coming out of Baylor that we might want to look into. But also to talk about Snow a little bit more, just look at it like this. He's been coaching since 1976. 40-something years of coaching. He's never even – I'm sure he probably had opportunities to come coach in the NFL because 40-plus years, you've been in college that long, that tells you about the relationship that he has with Matt Rhule. They got to be close to get this guy to want to come coach in the pros, if you understand what I'm trying to say. Also, out of his 44 years or whatever coaching, 40 of those years, he was strictly hands-on with DBs and being a coordinator, but his specialty is with corners and safeties, man. That's something that we most certainly need because I think that, you know, the guy that we had the most hopes for was Dante. He ain't been the same since he came into the league. He came from a, DBU where he came in the league is really polished, but you could also see a regression in his fundamentals. So I think a guy like Snow might bring the best out of him. I'm really excited about that acquisition.
Yeah, the guy I was talking about was actually James Lynch. He's the defensive end. He said he was going to come out of college if Matt Rhule entered the NFL. So he'll likely be announcing that he's going to enter the draft in the next few days. It's just another guy in high school. He wasn't recruited. He was somehow overlooked by all of the Texas schools when he was recruited by USC. But the Texas schools overlooked him, and he's just a great athlete. You know, they tried him at tight end and fullback and all of these different spots. And he finally found a home at defensive end and balled out this year in that 3-3-5, 3-2-6 defense that they were running. You know, he had a made All-American team, and I think he'll be a guy that Matt Rhule may want to bring to Carolina with him in the draft. And that's a need, too, because KK is getting up there in age, and we lack depth at that 5-technique defensive tackle or defensive end position. I think we were trying to play 3-technique defensive tackles, guys like Gerald McCoy and KK in that role, but this guy can actually play that 5 technique. So that's somebody to look out for.
And another thing here, fellas, I posted this article in our chat, so you can definitely check it out. It gave a summary of what it is that makes Rhule and Snow's defense successful. And I want to read this so our fans can understand what potential type of moves we make, whether it's free agency or the draft. Here's what it says. Here are the main things from Rhule and Snow's defense. Number one, the safeties have more responsibilities. At free safety, Rhule likes to use a fast, rangy player who can attack the ball in the air while also being available as the last line of defense against quarterback draws. At strong safety, they like a guy who's capable of spinning down in a slot to play man coverage and strong enough to take on blocks and to break up screens. So, when you think about who we currently have right now at Trey Boston and Eric Reed, under Rivera, our safety positions have been interchangeable. Either one of them can be, the deep single high, or either one of them can be down in the box. So I don't know that, with this, setup, if we're going to need more of the, quote, traditional true position safeties or not. But this is just one of the things that it said. Number two, it says the rush backer needs to be dynamic. This is number talking about Brian Burns here. It said this position requires a lot. A guy who can take on blocks and compete on rushing downs, who can get at the quarterback on passing downs, and who can even drop into coverage from time to time. That sounds like Brian Burns, dynamic pass rusher. Number three, need at least one lockdown cornerback. This is where I think that we could possibly see James Bradbury get resigned. I mean, I don't want to break the bank for him, but I think we all agreed that anywhere between $12 to $14 million, no more than 14 max is what we should invest in them. I think the max at 14 would put him at the price range that he's looking for. And if a Matt Rhule defense needs one lockdown cornerback, I think we definitely need to James re-signing Bradbury is definitely a priority. And the last thing here describes Luke Kuechly all day. The quote field linebacker, and that's in quotations, needs to be versatile enough to play in the box as a traditional linebacker, but is able to spread out wide to cover whoever is in the slots, such as tight ends and running backs. So, to think about it, we got the pieces in place. Now, safeties, I don't know. I can let, Will and Larry discuss, more about the Trey Boston and Eric Reed when it comes to this. But these are things that in a Matt Rhule, Snow defense that have made them successful. So we'll see how that affects, how we go about, adding more talent to this roster.
Oh, lost Larry. Now it seems to me Rhule's going to be his whole staff has the potential to show the Panther Nation that we could probably put something together here, guys. We have a stud running back. I guess we should touch on who you guys think we should pick in the first round, or first two rounds for that matter. Not necessarily a particular person, but should we focus on O-line in the trenches exclusively the first two rounds?
I think a lot of that's going to depend on what we do in free agency. Hurney and Gettleman and a lot of GMs have the simple philosophy. You fill out your roster in free agency and you draft the best player available in the draft. So I think, if Andrew Thomas or a top-tier offensive lineman drops to 7, take him. Great home run. Derek Brown falls to 7, take him. Home run. If, offensive run on offensive lineman goes early and if Jeffrey Simmons falls to number 7, a guy who's probably going to Hurney and Matt Rhule will love because he'll exceed all of their target athletic measurements, I think that's a guy that they're going to look at as well. So I think after free agency, we'll have a better idea of who they target in the draft. But I just think Hurney's going to stick with what Hurney does his whole career. Fill out the roster in free agency, then that way on draft time, he can stick to his board and just take the best players on the board and accumulate talent the best way he can. I think he'll be improved in the later rounds than he has been in prior years because Matt Rhule and Phil Snow have a recruiting system that they use where they have minimum athletic measurements. They're going to have minimum targets. They want you to be this fast, this vertical jump, this agility. They want to take the best athletes and mold them to the best way they can. So I think guys like Rashawn Golden that don't meet that athletic measurement testing won't get picked under Matt Rhule because he just won't meet that minimum requirement. So I just think you're going to see a very fast athletic defense he's going to accumulate athletes and try to develop them. I think we actually have a staff that can develop talented athletes into solid, fundamentally sound football players.
Based on what I know from the way Matt Rhule likes to run the offense, he likes to run behind the power run game. We have a few linemen that really just don't fit that bill. Greg Little did very, very, very little power run at Ole Miss. He showed, glimpses in the season where he's not the best run blocker in the world. So, he's somebody that you might want to still continue to develop. But I wouldn't be surprised if you go out and get you a Wirfs or a Thomas or, like a blue chip tackle because you really want to get that power run game going. Everybody on that offensive line is going to have to be athletic. They're going to have to be able to get to the second level, and they're going to have to be able to move guys off the ball if you're talking about a power run game. So I definitely expect the offensive line to be addressed. Me personally, I would like to get that addressed early, round 1 or 2, but we'll see. Like I agree with Bill. I agree with Will. Go BPA. Whether it's a defensive lineman or offensive lineman, definitely the trenches, I think Matt Rhule will agree that it has to be addressed right away. So I expect either an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman to come off the board between round 1 and 2. That's just how I see it. Being that, you brought up athleticism. The corner from Ohio State, he would be in play too because he seems to meet those standards. He's big, he's tall, he's long, but he's also fast. He can run with anybody. So at that number 7 pick, I just expect no matter what position it's going to be, the best athlete is going to come off the board. That's guaranteed.
Right on, man. Kev?
Well, being a trench guy like Larry, I'm all about the trenches. I mean, me personally, if we invested this whole draft on linemen, I wouldn't be mad because that's just how many holes me and Larry have watched and seen on film. Don't get me wrong, I've been one pleading and everybody to give Paradis a break as far as because he wasn't able to fully work out and things like that this past off season why he looked so bad, even though Will pointed out that the last 4 weeks of the season, he started making significant progress. So that could be something, to build forward to. But, overall with his age, I think he's going to be like 29, if not 30 next year. It's definitely time to invest in seeing who else could be out there as far as, the center for the next, 10 years, like we got out of Ryan Khalil. We could lose Greg Van Roten at left guard. And we all seen that, when Trey Turner get nicked up, how much the guard play is affected at right guard. Moulton seemed to have regressed in year 3. And it was just a revolving door at left tackle between Darrell Williams, Greg Little, and Dennis Daly. So I just think that I hear what you guys are saying as far as like best athletic and all that. I really do like the cornerback. Y'all was talking about from Ohio State, and the linebacker. I think from Clemson. I get all of that. Just me is just seeing that how our offensive line and defensive line just took turns getting us blowed up on both sides repeatedly, more so than anything else. I just really feel like that. Rounds 1 and 2 should be committed to the best player available at a position need. Obviously, we don't want to stretch or reach for anyone, but it's just them trenches is just ugly for me, and we can't win no games, and we can't get our skilled players to produce productive, behind the lines. We got to think about it. Christian McCaffrey did what he did behind, I think, what was the 27th offensive line ranking, if I'm not mistaken. One of you guys, can verify if the final rankings came out. But I thought that's what I saw. So think what we can do with what McCaffrey can do behind an improved offensive line. Offensive line that can execute power run blocking schemes, which is something that Matt Rhule likes to do. And just think about how, Shaq Thompson and Luke Kuechly can, even though they had solid, strong numbers this season, but just think what they can do if they got defensive linemen that can occupy all 5 blockers more than what they've had. I just think the best of the team will come if the interior on the offense and defensive line is addressed early and often in the draft.
Yeah, I think as far as drafting linemen early, think about outside of maybe a Wirfs and Andrew Thomas, you're gonna end up with a better player than Greg Little or Dennis Daly. That's a plug and play and can come in and take Trey Turner's reps, take Taylor Moton's reps, take Matt Parody's reps, take Greg Van Roten reps, or even take Greg Little or Daly's reps on day one in training camp. And I think that's where, drafting for immediate need comes back to bite you sometimes. Andrew Thomas, absolutely. He's a day one plug and play starter. Tristan Wirfs may be the same as well. I think he's a right tackler, can play both right and left tackle from Iowa. And then you got Jedrick Willis from Alabama, highly regarded offensive lineman. And then you have, I don't know if Creed Humphrey from Oklahoma, the interior lineman, is declared yet. And you got Bia Daz from Wisconsin, who's going to be probably too high at 7 to take him. But those are just the kind of things that make it challenging to build your team through the draft immediately like that. Are you going to get a day one plug-and-play starter that can be, a serviceable offensive lineman, or is he going to go through growing pains like Greg Little did, like Dennis Daly did, and you're just going to be back to square one? So I think that's why I think you got to just stick to your board and take the best player available, because I think reaching for O-lineman that's not ready to play on day one can come back to bite you if he's not ready to play on week 1 of the season.
The way I see it, I'll try to narrow it down a little bit more. If it's not Wirfs, if it's Thomas, or if it's not Derek Brown at pick 7, we can look at the best player available. Those are the 3 guys that I see in round 1 that are in reach for us that we can actually go ahead and get in their plug and play. If you go to the round 2, you mentioned one of them already from Wisconsin is Biadas. He's a guy that I would like to have for the interior that can come in and make a difference right away. Also, my favorite interior guy is the center from Washington, Nick Harris. If you can get him in round 2, that's definitely a day one difference maker that can come and start right away. But if you're not looking at names like that in round 1 and 2, you can probably go ahead and just get the best player available. If that's a safety, whether it's a safety. I know guys like the corner from Ohio State. I know guys like Judy from the receiver from Alabama or whatever. Like if you can't get one of those big names as far as the offensive line and defensive line go ahead and go BPA. But honestly, if any of those names I mentioned are available in round 1 and 2, you just got to go out and get those guys. Like we really, really, really have to have an overhaul of the trenches. My favorite trench guy that I've been watching this offseason is Leki Fotu from Utah. As of right now, he's projected around 3 to 4, but I pretty much can confirm once this combine, Senior Bowl, all that stuff happens, he's going to climb boards, because one thing that he does well is he takes on double teams. He's a space eater. He's 6'5", 335 pounds, and he's athletic. He can make plays in the backfield. That's somebody that's going to make Luke Kuechly's job easier. That's the biggest name that I've been looking at in the mid-rounds this offseason as it just started. We just got to get big guys, man. I don't want to make it sound simple like that, but when it comes to the defensive side of the ball, we have to have guys that can keep our linebackers clean. It fits what we want to do. It fits the way Rhule actually is used to working. If you look at his past defense this year, I mentioned a guy earlier. His last name is Roy, but he's 6'1", 333 pounds. He immediately resets the line of scrimmage. If you watch a little bit of film on him, he's a real deal when it comes to having a true nose tackle. We had the worst run defense in the league, and a lot of people think it's a lot of problems or whatever. It just really come down to our interior guys, in my opinion. That nose tackle position was not addressed properly. I know Poe was supposed to be that, but he's clearly not the same player he used to be. I definitely expect whether it's round 1, 2, 3 through 7, we're going to get a space heater. We got to go get somebody that's 330 pounds or better, that's going to take on double teams, reset the line of scrimmage, get penetration, that kind of stuff we definitely need to have. So just like Kevin has said, man, this draft to me, I wouldn't care if all 7 picks were interior offensive and defensive linemen. That's just how I feel. But as far as the left tackle position go, Greg Little, he was a project. Hurney traded up for a project. I don't agree with that. I don't believe in trading up in the draft to get somebody that is far away from being a day one difference maker. And that's what Greg Little was to me. So I know they say you can set your franchise back when you draft the same position early in back-to-back drafts, but listen, a guy like Andrew Thomas is out there at pick 7, you got to go get him over everybody else.
Well, Andrew Thomas, I think, is generational at that left tackle position. So, I mean, if he draws to 7 poor 6 teams, I mean, they let him fall to us, it's over. I think he's probably the best left tackle prospects. I mean, I don't know. Let's think back. When's the last time you've seen a left tackle prospect this polished coming out in the draft?
Orlando Pace.
We got to go that far, but
It's been a while, man.
But I mean, yeah, I have a hard time following. I mean, he's definitely probably a top 3 player on the entire draft to me. So if he falls to 7, maybe some quarterbacks go in front of us that let him slip. I'd love that, but I just can't see 6 GMs saying, "No, I don't want this guy."
Yeah. Don't see that. Yeah.
The farthest I can think back is probably the left tackle that I think the Titans may have got him, but his last name is Fisher. He got drafted in 2013.
Oh yeah.
He didn't play necessarily bad. I think he just actually made a Pro Bowl this year. But you're talking about when it comes to the left tackle position, if you got a generational player, you really don't have a choice, man. You just got to go out and get that guy.
Mm-hmm.
I think the last guy, and y'all can let me know if I'm giving him too much prop. The one the Cowboys got, was it Tyron Smith? Would you consider him an elite left tackle coming out of school?
Yeah,
he was a right tackle. He was a right tackle. Remember, Matt Khalil started at left tackle for USC, and Tyron Smith was the right tackle. That's why it's so funny, because they turned pro. Tyron Smith's an elite left tackle, and Matt Khalil didn't live up to that top 5 pick status.
Oh, the irony.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, that's definitely. But as far as me, a dream scenario for me, and I know Larry's talking about once, these bowl games and combine, how Leaky Fotu could jump up. But if you want to talk about a slam dunk draft, and I hate these mock drafts because they tease me with possibilities, but it's been several times I was able to get Derek Brown with the first round, Biadasz in the second round, and Leaky Fotu in the third round. My God, if we got those, we've won the NFL draft. I don't care what anybody else does. That right there would set our trenches up on a proper bill for years to come. And even if he does shoot up the draft, I wouldn't mind him going back to 2013 when we went back to back with Starr and KK. Look how well that turned out. Mm-hmm. You get us a Derek Brown and a Leaky Fotu. What picks 1 and 2? I'll walk away. Feeling extremely happy with those results. But I get, like I say, you can set yourself back. But like I say, unless it's generational or, like I say, day one immediate talent, you definitely got to go best player available. But it's some game changers that by us being this high up in the draft at the top of each round, because for those who don't know, rounds 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, we rotate, so we're not always picking 7th in each round. I believe we rotate up as high as 4th in a round. So we, if we decide to just stick with our 7 picks and just acquire talent that way, we're going to be in a position to get good talent. Because one thing that's crazy about the NFL draft, as much sense as we make it why a team should pick this player, we know teams will do some goofball things and just have you scratching like they did what? Think back to Cleveland a couple years ago. instead of drafting Saquon Barkley first and then still getting Baker Mayfield, they got Baker Mayfield and Denzel Ward. I mean, you had a chance to possibly got your franchise quarterback and running back with your top 4 picks. And, we've seen how this turned out in Cleveland, so I'm going to leave it at that.
Man, to be honest with you, your draft, like anything that you mentioned, you immediately change your direction from a rebuild to just a retool. Like those kind of positions, look, premier left tackle, premier interior defensive lineman. If you can, those are our core problems. I think everybody can agree. It's the offensive line, being able to protect the quarterback, and our defensive line being able to stop the run. If with those first 3 or 4 picks, you can address that right away, you go from a rebuild to a retool. You might be looking at trying to compete for a wild card instead of just low expectations like a 7-9 or 8-8. That's how imperative the draft can be sometimes, man.
Yeah, man. I guess
because I think a healthy Cam is good. Can I say a healthy Cam is good to get you at least 4 wins by himself every year?
Yeah.
He'll get you 4. McCaffrey will get you 3. That's 7 right there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, my expectation's low, but now that we got a coach and we kind of, done reveal some information of what he kind of likes to do, and with Cam's health coming up in March, with the free agency with Brad Bear, I mean, if things fall into place, we could be a fun team to watch in 2020, and give people a sneak preview of this new era that mediocrity is no longer will live at on Mint Street in Charlotte, North Carolina. So. Again, not to get in one too hype, but if we do this all season right, the fun for us can probably start a little bit earlier than what it may seem like right now. So, like Tim like to say, stay tuned, folks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Took the words right out of my mouth. We got our HC though, so we know that. Yeah, everything else is going to flow from there, folks. You just gotta. Just stay tuned. Make sure you're checking out our website and our Facebook page and all our social media platforms, and we'll keep you in tune with what's going on. We have apparently a damn good, potentially a damn good head coach coming in there. That's going to shake things up a little bit in a good way. Closing remarks, gentlemen.
Yeah, I mean, if Matt Rhule going to start hanging out in the QC, he got to get rid of that smile. I mean, he got to have a little bit more swag on that sideline. I can't be having a coach walking around sideline with that smile on.
You got to come in that drip, homeboy.
Maybe Cam need to go take him to his closet and get him a new wardrobe, because you got to retire that. That's that Waco, Texas stuff, though. We don't do that in the 704.
Bro. You got to come with that drip, cuz. You got to come correct, man. Got to look saucy. Oh man, but yeah. I guess we gave you everything that we have on deck right now, folks. And like I said, check out our webpage at the4manrush.com. That's www.the4manrush.com. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. And we'll keep you up to date. That's for darn sure. As soon as we found out about this information, man, we were all over the chatter feed, man. Well, we're all over the chatter feed anyway. We're constantly communicating about Panther football, and other things, but we're not getting all that. Oh, man. So, hey, thank you guys for checking us out. We love that you are engaging our content, and you guys keep us motivated to give you the best Panther news and media coverage that we could possibly do that's not not directly affiliated with the Carolina Panther organization. So thank you. Appreciate it, man. On behalf of myself, Timmy Vio, Kevin, Will, and Larry, I hope you guys are having a good evening, whether you're listening to this podcast in the morning, afternoon, or in the nighttime. And be safe. Hug your children, hug your wife, hug your husband, and pet your dog. It's going to be all right. The season's over. catch some ACC basketball. Check out the playoffs, and we'll check you next time. Thanks again, guys, and as always, keep pounding.
Speaking of playoffs, how do we go a whole hour show and forget to clown the Aints?
I hate talking about them sons of bitches when they're still playing.
We ain't even doing no trash talk on them Aints.
People call me crazy for picking them damn Vikings.
Yeah, bro, I didn't think they was going to do it, bro. I didn't think they was going to pull it out, bro.
Hey, at least send some shots. Send some shots.
I tell you what, though, it ain't gonna matter, bro. Your boy in Seattle is balling right now, bro. Big Metcalf, big ass.
Man, they told me he couldn't play because his agility drills times was too slow.
Shit.
Like, man, he can be bigger, faster, and stronger than the guy that's covering him. Just run him on deep routes.
That's all he was doing. Hey, all right, run this 9 route. I'm gonna find you. Run the 9. I got you. Yep. All right. You couldn't even jam this dude, bro. He's just like, move, nigga.
Hey, real quick, fellas. Hey, I was mentioning this to Tim, so I just want to mention you guys. I was thinking about, with the all season, maybe just doing some things different to kind of reach out on our different formats.
I'm just taking time to really let it breathe. So baby, just chill. She love it. We out in public and we can just chill with my partners, and we can go back to my crib and just chill under covers and do we call me and you love us.
The Four-Man Rush is brought to you by the love and respect of and for the Carolina Panthers and Carolina Panther fans everywhere. Keep pounding. The Four-Man Rush is a non-affiliate of the Carolina Panther organization. All thoughts, assessments, and content of this podcast is directly related to the Four-Man Rush exclusively. Thank you.